Imagine showing up to a pickleball tournament, playing in it, and each time that you and your partner make it up to the kitchen, you make next to no mistakes. This kind of superpower-like play may seem impossible, but there are tons of professional pickleball players who seem to have an incredible ability to not only make the right decision, but be able to do that again and again and again without compromise. And I'm definitely not one of them. Or at least I wasn't until about 6 months ago, when I learned these 5 simple steps that I'm going to be sharing with you now. This video is sponsored by Slinger Bag. If you guys are in need of a pickleball ball machine, it's the one to get. It's the most affordable by far. I actually was not affiliated with them until about a month ago or so, and I had been using the bag just on my own for 4 to 5 months. Absolutely loved it, so I reached out to them, said, hey, you got to get me a code for my followers. So if you guys use code PLAYBOOK, helps support the channel. You guys can get on there, get yourself a ball machine, start getting those reps in today. Okay, so that brings us to point number 1, which is who's got middle.
Who's there?
Okay, so when we're up at the net, the worst thing that we can possibly do is be confused on which partner is covering middle, which partner is covering line, and all of the in-between. And coming from a tennis background, it was always forehand has middle. So whoever has a forehand, unless you have a lefty and a righty on the court, whoever has the forehand is going to be covering the middle, even if it is slightly on the side of their partner. But in pickleball, it's not true. The person that's over here that's dinking even side to even side or right side to right side is going to pull over and cover the middle, hitting this shot with their backhand. Then the person that's over here on the even side is now covering anything at their body, right? And anything that comes up the line. That's 100% theirs to cover. And now that you have those rolls equaled out, the only shot that your opponent has now, where they could pass you, theoretically, is to hit this angle over here, where they're coming big, huge cross-court angle into the kitchen, which you'll have a lot more time to get to. If they hit it with too much power, it's going to be going out anyway. So with the pace that they're going to be hitting it, we come out, we dink it back cross court, and now we're back, hovering kind of over the middle and hovering over the kitchen. And the reason that we want to recover back is because it's our job to cover the middle. Now, the second circumstance that we're going to talk about is if I am dinking from backhand side to backhand side, or I guess if you're lefty, it's going to be forehand side. But if I'm dinking from the left side to the left side, there it is. It's now my job to cover the middle here, and it's my partner's job to cover anything line that comes up the line and at their body. So all it comes down to is with those two situations, we want to make them hit the hardest shot that they can hit. So where they're going to have the lowest percentage of getting the shot in, which is going to be short and cross court. So if we can keep them in that cross court dink battle short and kind of force them to maybe pop it up the middle, we're there to slam the ball, whether we have a one-hander or two-hander. But we want to make them feel like they have to go over here. And then you're going to see a lot of errors, a lot of balls in the net, a lot of balls that are slightly wide, and a lot of balls that you can come around and hit an ATP around the post. All right, that brings us to point number 2 for dominating the net. And this has to do with dinking. And so what the challenge is, or what I challenge you guys to do, is next time that you go out and play rec, typically it's 2 hours that people play. I can't think of anybody that I know at least that doesn't go out for at least 2 hours. It's always 2 hours. If it's not a 2-hour block, let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to see how long you guys play. But it's a 2-hour block, and during that 2 hours, to reset my brain to make the right decision, I will exclusively dink every single time cross court. I'm going cross court, cross court, cross court, not one dink's going up the line. And then I'll also go up the middle if I'm ever in trouble. If I'm pulled way out wide, I'll hit the dink up the middle into the kitchen to be able to reset, get back into the point, because it's going to be really hard if I'm pulled out wide to then dink it way far out wide. And that's where you'll see a ton of mistakes. So that's the only situation that I'm hitting up the middle. And I'm not once, under any circumstance throughout those 2 hours, hitting anything up the line. And the reason that you want to do this is because it's a very good decision-making process to be hitting cross court with majority of your dinks. If I am standing across from my opponent, across the net from them, they're directly in front of me, we have 14 feet between my kitchen line and their kitchen line. But the opponent that is on the opposite side over there for this instance, they're on the left side of the court. we have 20 feet from corner to corner of the court. So we have way more court to work with. I want to say you even have more because of the angle that we're on. It's probably closer to 21, 22 feet. So you have an extra 6 to 8 feet that you're working with going cross court. So that's always going to be a good decision for consistency at the net. And you're going to drive your opponents absolutely nuts that they're not getting any earning opportunities, they're not getting any pop-ups here. Because it's very easy to pop up the ball when we only have 14 feet. It's very easy to hit it slightly high where they can attack it. But when we have 21, 22 feet to work with, it's extremely difficult for them to be able to get into the kitchen and hit the ball out of the air without stepping actually in the kitchen. So that's the first point of this. The second point is each time that I'm dinking cross court, I am now hovering over the kitchen, meaning I'm bending my knees and leaning in. And a little quick tip is, you guys can see how far I can reach there, but when I bend my knees, I can reach an extra like 3 or 4 inches. So I'm here, reach. But when I bend my knees, I can reach in further. And notice where I'm standing, I'm about 1 foot to 2 feet from this center line. And that's where I'm coming in. I'm covering the middle, but I'm also hovering over. So I'm not allowing them, I'm making them feel like the court is extremely small. And by doing this, they feel like they have to hit this angle every single time. So they're gonna hit this angle over here. It's gonna be a pretty easy dink for us to be able to hit back cross court. If they slightly miss, they're gonna set us up for an ATP, or they're going to pop it up slightly high and we're gonna take it out of the air, hit an attackable ball. Which, if anything is slightly high, meaning it's above our belly button or above, we need to take that opportunity to swing at the ball every single time. But I give you guys that challenge. Your next rec game, you're out for 2 hours, dink exclusively cross court. You'd be surprised at how many points you win just based off of them making simple mistakes, popping up the ball to you, and you being able to put it away. Okay, that brings us to step number 3, which has to do with when we make a little mistake. And that little mistake is typically when we're dinking, once we've made it up to the kitchen, we pop the ball slightly high to our opponents. And if we do what we did in step 2, it's going to be the opponent that's standing across from us, right? So we're going to have a ton of time to react, but our partner's probably not going to have a ton of time to react. So the number one thing that you can do is you're obviously covering middle with that shot. So you're stepping in towards the middle on this side. Since you dinked cross court, it's slightly high. But notice how I'm also stepping back. So I take 1 step back, and this turns into a split step where I'm splitting my feet apart as I am stepping back. So I do a step split. So I'm stepping split, and now you guys can see instead of me being however far away that is from my opponents, I'm now further away from my opponents so that I have more time to react. In the next clip, notice how Avery doesn't step and split, which results in her not having enough time to react to the speed up. Now see how in this clip she does step and split and has enough time to not only counter, but win the point off of her counter. And it might seem like a simple decision for them to just be like, oh, I'll just go to the open court over here. That's actually their hardest shot to hit. So we want to give them their hardest shot to hit, which is this angle over here. And we want to take away their easiest shot, which is here, and their second easiest shot, which is going to be at our opponent, at our partner. And our partner needs to also take just a step back from their position. They're a step back and they're prepared here. Now the most important thing is we're making them hit the hardest shot, or making them feel like they have to hit the hardest shot, which I'll still be able to get to unless they hit it like absolutely perfect within, you know, an inch of the line, which just isn't going to happen very often. And if they do, you just give them a nice clap because that's a fantastic shot. They deserve it. And you're the one that made the mistake of popping it up. So you can't possibly, you know, cover that shot and cover the middle. You want to cover their hardest shot. I mean, their easiest shot to hit, which is going to be this middle shot. So one thing to note, or a couple things to note with this, I take my step back, split. I have my knees bent. I'm not bent all the way to the ground, right? But I have my knees slightly bent. I'm in an athletic stance. I have a wide base. I'm just outside the shoulders for balance and stability. And I'm slightly bent, and then also my paddle is up and ready to go. Notice how it's not up here, right? This would make no sense for this position, because if it does come up here, the ball's gonna go long. So I wanna actually have it slightly downward towards about belly button height based off of the trajectory of my ball. Now, if I popped up an absolute lob to them where they're taking it up here, then I want my paddle to actually be down here. And the reason for that is because they're gonna have the angle to hit down to there. But for this instance, I'm just saying we've hit a slightly high ball. Okay, it's like right there, and they're taking it out of the air. This would be one where we're gonna be at about belly button height, ready to reset the ball. And remember, with this shot, we have to be able to make the decision whether or not to reset the ball into the kitchen or take a big swing at it. And that's what we're gonna be talking about next. So that brings us to step number 4, which has to do with either resetting or attacking the ball that they give us. And what it comes down to is the height of the ball that they give us, and us making obviously the right decision based off of the height. So starting with, if it is above our navel, meaning above our belly button. If it is above our belly button anywhere, we're going to counter that ball rather than reset it. Meaning I'm going to shift to the side and take a big swing at the ball, coming over the ball, or I'm just gonna simply block over the ball, depending on how comfortable or how fast that ball, how comfortable I feel or how fast the ball is coming at me. Anything above the navel, I'm hitting topspin as I counter through it. And usually I'm going to be about a foot back or a couple feet back, depending on how high my pop-up was and how much time I have to get back. If you have time to get all the way to the baseline, do it. Get all the way back there if you've really popped it high, because you're not going to have enough time to react, and you're probably going to get the ball to the face, which nobody likes. So taking a step back, I have split stepped, and I'm going to take that ball with topspin counter or a topspin block. I'm just simply coming over the top of the ball with that shot. The reason that this is a counter is because the ball is high and I can hit down on it, or I can at least hit neutral with it. And so then we're going to be in this hand battle if they have time to react, where I'm now hitting down, 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 down on the ball. Now, for resetting, you probably guessed it, but it's anything that's below the navel. So anything that's below my belly button, I'm going to be resetting, and that comes down to underspin. So I'm cutting at the ball, I'm trying to reset the ball into the kitchen so that it lands in my opponent's kitchen, and then I can start the point over. So if anything is low, our paddle is here, right? And all that we have to do is cut into it. We're just simply resetting it into the kitchen. Now, are you going to be able to do this intuitively, where it's like, okay, the ball's low, and you're hitting topspin on accident, or if the ball's high and you're hitting slice on accident? You're not going to be able to do this intuitively. And what it's going to come down to is getting reps in and getting out there and drilling over and over and over again. That's why I came out with my app, Pickleball Playbook. If you guys want to check that out, it's in the description below as well. It'll just be under app. You guys can download it. It's on iOS and Android. And it just has tons of different trainings and drills that you guys can do to be able to get those reps in properly, so that you're always using the right form as you're doing it. Yeah, that brings us to tip number 5, which is a fun little bonus tip. And this is something that has to do with net cords. So I don't think I've ever played a match where there hasn't been at least one net cord. There's usually multiple. And I think it can really frustrate players when the ball hits the net cord and dribbles over, or comes and hits them in the chest or something like that. But I tend to not be as frustrated. I only get frustrated if it happens a ton, like 6 times in one game. Then I'm going to be frustrated, but I can't control that. So I'm trying to be better at not being frustrated at that. But what we have to remember is it's out of the control of our opponents to hit the net, and it's out of our control to hit the net. So really what it comes down to is, since it's out of our control, it doesn't matter. So we have to move on from it. These net cords that I'm referring to are ones that dribble over, and we're both up at the net together. And so since they dribble over, our only option is to then hit it short in the kitchen, or to lob it over our opponents. Typically, and I mean majority of the time, when our opponents do this and it dribbles over the net and they see us coming up to grab it, they'll be like a mouse on cheese, hovering over the kitchen, ready to slam that thing back in our face, because the odds of us popping it up are pretty dang high, because we're fully outstretched. Getting to the ball, it's really hard to control that back into the kitchen. So what I suggest doing as a change-up with this shot is hitting a lob over your opponents. So you're going to be reaching in, your head's going to stay down, and you're just going to hit a lob. And the reason for that is because they're going to be hovering over, ready to attack. As soon as you lob, they're off balance. I've won so many points where it's just a straight up winner based off of a lob that I've gotten within, 3 or 4 feet from the baseline. Not even like right on the baseline. 3 or 4 feet just because they're hovering over. So a little quick tip, if it dribbles over the net, which it will, I think it will a couple of times within your 2-hour session, 2-hour rec game. It definitely will throughout a tournament day. Practice lobbing that over your opponents. They'll be hovering over, and you guys will be able to take them out with that point. All right, be sure to leave a comment below of what you guys would like to learn about next. I upload a new video like this every single week, sometimes 2 a week. So make sure that you guys stay tuned by clicking that bell and subscribing. I would sure appreciate it. If this has been helpful at all, leave a comment below, let me know. And I'll see you guys on the next one.